EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody. A Tuesday edition of Birds 365 coming off a Week 2 collapse for the Philadelphia Eagles. They lose 22-21 to the Atlanta Falcons. That's John McMullen. I'm Zander, Krause. We have a great show planned for you today. I know the results were tough last night. We're here to break it all down for you. Two great guests, Jeff Kerr and Chris Franklin, hoping to talk to both of them.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I mean, long night for everybody covering the team. So, Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Tuesday morning, man, after a tough Eagles collapse last night?
Doing well as can be expected with, I don't know, 4 hours of sleep.
Yeah.
So might be a little dizzy, drunk on tiredness. So forgive me if I get tongue-tied, but yeah, doing as well as can be expected. Monday night football. Night games are a pox on society, but I digress.
Yeah, no doubt. Tough game last night, Johnny Mac. Just your initial takeaway. I mean, you lose that game really in the last, 70, 80, 90 seconds of the game. You had it.
I mean, 145, which I think,
so 100 seconds.
Yeah. So I just saw Next Gen Stats had the Eagles at the Falcons had a 0.7% chance of winning with 156 left in the fourth quarter, according to Next Gen Stats. That is only the seventh most improbable win in the Next Gen Stats era. So that's since 2016. It's not a long period, but I mean, stuff like that happens in the NFL. It's the seventh time, but yeah, very improbable win and bad loss for the Eagles. So they should have won the game. They didn't win the game. So that's never a good situation.
I mean, tough loss. Jalen Hurts throws the interception at the end of the game. Everybody's talking about the play call, Johnny Mac, the pass play to Saquon Barkley that he drops. You and Cilio had a debate on the postgame show about that play call. Just your takeaways on the way that game ended and what you thought was really the most important piece for the Eagles losing the game.
Well, drop pass. I mean, there's no there's fine talking after the drop about, just because there's a mistake there doesn't mean the defense has to go out and do whatever the heck they did. And even after the defense gives up the touchdown in 65 seconds, and the Manning cast did a good breakdown with with Peyton Manning and Eli, and Matt Ryan was on with them at that particular time. So 3 high-level, smart football IQ quarterbacks taking you through that drive. It's pretty fun to watch, but there's no law that says the defense can't pick up Saquon Barkley. And even after the defense falters, there's no law that says the Eagles offense can't get back on the field and get in Jake Elliott in the field goal position, especially in this era where everybody seems to be banging through 55-yarders like they're extra points. And so you had a bunch of things, but it's the drop pass. The game's over with the drop pass. And I just talked about the Manning cast. Watch Peyton's reaction with that drop. I don't get people. I do not get people. How are you criticizing the play call? He's by himself in the flat with a perfectly thrown ball right in his hands.
Yeah, bounced right off his fingers.
High level, all pro level player. Are you freaking kidding me? The game is over. You trust your best players. And all people want to talk about is Kellen Moore, a bad play call, and they want to say Nick Sirianni should have stopped it, but they don't want him involved and this and that. Stop bending over backwards when people make egregious mistakes. The game is over if Saquon Barkley makes the simplest play in his career and he didn't make it. That's it. End of sentence. It kills me, Zander.
Look,
And it's
John, I more fall, I think, on your side of this after you've explained it, and you're right. Look, the football in a way is a game of stars. You have Saquon Barkley who's running all over this team, and you go to him to ice the game. But as a coach, don't you want to try and limit your downside in that moment? Take those 40 seconds off. Can't you see at least the other side as to why?
No, I can't. Because if you watch modern football recently, Antonio Pierce did this in week 1. Old school football. And I'm old. I'm supposed to be old school. Now, but evidently I'm newer school than everybody. He's got the football with a chance to win, and it's one on the plus side of the field, and he punts the football like it's 1973, and he's going to play defense and get the ball back. Well, he never got the ball back.
Yeah, right.
That's a stupid way to play football in today's environment.
You're right. It's the modern game. You got to go for it there. I mean, I understand what you're saying.
Been at the forefront of this, going back to the Doug Peterson era, which helped them win their only Super Bowl ever. And now other teams have caught up, and it's become a little bit more difficult. Detroit, I mentioned yesterday on the show, has been a disaster in every sense of the word. They turn it around. They get to the NFC Championship game. People are still complaining when the players don't execute what they've executed all year, and all of a sudden it becomes the coach's fault. Look, if it makes you feel better, blame the coach. Great. All right. Go execute a damn play.
I got other issues with the coach tonight than that play call.
Well, that's fine.
Even the beginning of the game, like I don't understand. That's what I don't understand about the modern game. You go down, you march down the field. Saquon Barkley has four carries and he has 40 yards, and then you get inside the red zone and you pass, and you don't take the points. It's 3rd and 4. If it's 4 down territory there, take the run play on 3rd down. I don't understand that, so I have other problems with the coaching performance. John,
well, and I don't think they should have went for it early on 4th and 4.
That's what I was talking about.
You take the field goal. You take the field goal. You do.
But look, I do want to move on because I'm sure we're going to talk about that damn play call all show. So your thoughts?
And nobody and nobody's talking about the damn play call. I know I'm going to shuffle off this mortal coil, as they say, long before anybody understands it. Do people seriously look in the mirror today and say, I'm complaining about that play call? What are you complaining about? The wide open receiver, the easy execution of the play call? It was if anything, it was a perfect play call that he caught the Falcons.
I know, right?
And people are complaining about the play call. No, you're complaining about the play result.
John,
why was the play result? It was the player. Why can't people understand that?
John, you've been saying this since I've been doing this show and long before I started doing this show. People don't judge play calls. They judge play results. And the more I watch the game, the more I realize how right you are with that. John, let's move on. Jalen Hurts intercepts, throws a turnover at the end of the game. I thought that was a brutal decision by the quarterback. You're 14, 15 yards away with 25 seconds still on the clock and a timeout. We talked about getting 15 yards here in yard for a 60, in range for a 60-yarder. I thought they could have gotten 3 more plays off and maybe been down to a 45, 50-yarder. But Jalen forces that ball down the field, intercepted by Jesse Bates, who had a good game. We talked about him kind of all day yesterday. Just your thoughts on Jalen Hurts' overall game and then that interception at the end of the game to really
I thought he played pretty well, under some difficult circumstances without A.J. Brown, and that happened late in the week, so you had to rework the game plan at least somewhat. And I think they did a pretty good job. Obviously, they were far more limited, as they always are when A.J. isn't able to be on the field. But he took care of the football until the very end. And there's a little bit of a desperation aspect. But, yeah, he's got to understand the situation better. You got plenty of time. As silly as that sounds, you had the timeout. You can do whatever you need. You only needed the 14, 15 yards. No guarantee Jake Elliott's going to make a 60-yard field goal.
I think they could have got closer, was my point. It's not like there was 8 seconds and you had 1 play left.
No, and they could have got it. That's what I mean. And it's very unlikely, again, in the modern NFL that you're going to be able to defend 2 or 3 consecutive plays. That's just the nature of the game. Now things can go bad. You can give up a sack, and all of a sudden you're really up against it. And we saw things can happen all the time with Saquon dropping the pass. I mean, there's lack of execution all the time, but you're counting on everybody doing their job. And if you do that, you probably have, as you mentioned, at least 2, perhaps 3 plays to get it to where you needed to get it. And you didn't need to take that shot. It was a bad decision, but born out of desperation. And it seems, when there's that little time on the clock, that maybe you get that sliver of an opening and say, you gotta take the shot. And he took the shot and he overthrew the ball dramatically. Jesse Bates interception, game over. Shouldn't have been in that position, but yeah, he could have handled it better.
No doubt about it. Overall, I thought he played an all right game up until that point, but you're the quarterback in crunch time. You got to make the right decisions. I thought that was a bad decision by Jalen Hurts to force that ball down the field. John, let's flip over to the defensive side of the ball. Bryce Huff is on the milk carton, but before we get to the pass rush, before we get to that, here's a stat for you, John, and I'm sure you've already seen this morning. Thomas Booker played 9 snaps yesterday, and he led the entire defensive line in solo tackles and the entire defense in tackle for losses. On 9 snaps. What is going on, John, with the defensive line? And by the way, Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis are included in this conversation right now. They were really nowhere yesterday, with the exception of maybe one play. What is going on with the defensive line, John?
Yeah, it's not playing well. I mean, it's still a small sample size, but yeah, not playing well. And week 1 still counts, still terrible field. So I'd put that now. Things are much more pristine in Lincoln Financial Field. Good offensive line Atlanta has, not great. And you saw a few little flashes here and there, but yeah, very disappointing as a whole. Very, very disappointing as a whole. And I know everybody's focused on Bryce Huff because he makes $51 million. That's just the nature of it. Oh, he makes $51 million, so he's got to do this, he's got to do that. And he hasn't played well, and he's got to play better.
John,
but I'll tell you, my most
not getting a sack. He looked like a liability, dude.
My most, I'm most disappointed in Jalen Carter.
Yeah,
I mean,
yep,
because Bryce Huff should be better. I think he will be better eventually. But still, the real star, is supposed to be Jalen Carter. He didn't even start the game. Milton Williams started. Now, I don't know, but that rings to me, and we'll try to find out when Vic generally tells the truth. That's strange. If that's a college game, it's usually a disciplinary issue, right? You don't start the kid and then he comes in and plays that old school environment. But Milton Williams started the game, not Jalen Carter. And yeah, there was one play where he broke through and you said, all right, that looked like the explosive guy. Didn't amount to anything other than a Cousins throwaway. But yeah, I'm more disappointed in him. But I get, I'm not trying to take the highlight off Bryce Huff. I mean, he's done nothing. Jordan Davis has done essentially nothing. And he's getting pushed around. I don't even know how that's possible.
I know.
A 340, 50-pound guy getting, dominated a little bit too much. Yeah, I mean, that group is supposed to be carrying the defense. And they've been bad, with the exception of Brandon Graham, and I would say Josh Sweat has played okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Bad. Yeah, they've been bad. But it's only 2 games. And I assume they'll get their sea legs under them a little bit and things will improve. But all we have is 2 games, and through 2 games they've been a bad group.
John, I got to be honest. I am more concerned after 2 games than you are. I understand it. It's only 2 games. It's a long season. It's only September. It's not like we're late in November right now. That defensive line looks putrid to me. Bryce Huff, he looked like John, there was a running play. It looked like Bryce Huff was fixing his helmet.
He was bad. He was bad
in the middle of the play. I'm like, Bryce, what? Wake up, Bryce. 17 million. Wake up. I mean, I didn't know what the hell he was doing out there. He looked like a liability to me last night. Bryce Huff is not it. I mean, look, he might be a decent player, and I understand what you're saying. The guy had great numbers and everything last year, and the pass rush win rate and all that. This was a guy that was brought in, and we let Hassan Reddick go because he was going to replace that production.
I would just say that,
John, that's not Hassan Reddick. I'll tell you that.
Well, no, but they didn't. I mean, you see what's going on with Hassan Reddick. I mean, they didn't say we're replacing Hassan Reddick with Bryce Huff.
23 million to Hassan Reddick sounds pretty damn good to me right about
now. Yeah, but the assumption is he's playing for 23 million. He's not playing for 23 million. Like he wants Bosa money. He wants to be over 25. Now you can say if that's your belief and the Eagles should pay him 25 million. Okay, but that's the decision. They didn't say, "Oh, we think Bryce Huff is better than Hassan Reddick." They said,
I get what you're saying.
We're not paying this player $25 million, and because we're not paying this player $25 million, we got to go find somebody else. They weren't. So yeah, I mean they weren't replacing. The what and saying, "Oh, Bryce Huff is better than Hassan Reddick." They'd love to have Hassan Reddick on the final year of the deal he signed, or even with a bump to maybe close to 20 million. They would have bumped him to a certain extent. I don't know how high they would have went. They would have loved to have had him, but he's, as you see with the situation he's currently in, he's very headstrong about his value and about how long he's been underpaid, and he's taken a stand. And I get it from his standpoint, because it is a little bit unfair that somebody who has produced as much as he has in the league for whatever reason, it's not just the Eagles, the league for whatever reason says, well, you're not Nick Bosa, you're not Myles Garrett, you're not even Max Crosby or player of that level, you're not TJ Watt. Which he isn't, but I get it from his standpoint. He says, well, I produce like they do, to a certain extent, not quite as much, but so I get it from both standpoints. But the thought, the vacuum point, me, I can't stand the vacuum thought. Oh, well, they replaced Hassan Reddick with Bryce Huff. They replaced Hassan Reddick because Hassan Reddick wasn't going to play here for
no, I get it. I'm just saying that's a game right now. You're talking about, I get you're not going to replace the player, but that was a game. The pass rush would have wrecked that game last night if you could get to the quarterback. Kirk Cousins, with a little bit of pressure on him, is not the same guy. He had no pressure all night. So we talk about, the extra money. We got $20 million in cap space still this year. Give Hassan the bump for 1 year at least, or whatever it is. But look, I get it. It's not that simple in a vacuum, but back to the point of the guy who's on the team. Bryce Huff just looks nowhere. Doesn't look good. He almost looks like a liability on any time he can't get after the quarterback. I think it's a big problem. I really do. I mean, Vic Fangio kind of warned us, and we didn't want to fully believe it, and now we're seeing it.
Well, I think Vic warned us about the run support.
Definitely.
Yeah. I don't think Vic warned about pass rush, which has also been a problem.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't expect him. Hassan, I got news for you. Hassan wasn't good against the run, but nobody cared because he got to the quarterback. The same would hold true to Bryce Huff, but he's got to get to the quarterback. Hasn't gotten to the quarterback, so that's the bigger issue. But yeah, he's not a good run. Hassan wasn't a good run support player. And that's got to be baked into it. And I actually thought the way Vic was handling it with having Brandon Graham playing more first downs made a lot of sense because Brandon's a very good run support player for a defensive end when he's not grabbing face masks, but he's generally very good, and it would have worked out. But Bryce is not holding his water in the pass rush, which to me is the biggest problem by far.
I see Jeff Kerr in the room. We're going to get to our commercial break. Jeff, appreciate you being up with us this morning. Commercial break coming soon. We'll get to Jeff Kerr. John, just your last thought here in the secondary. Darius Slay got burnt at the end of the game. Drake London, I mean, a simple little in and out route.
I don't think that's simple watching it again. It was an option route, and you have to understand. And
I think Slay got caught watching though.
Slay apologized to Philadelphia. It didn't go over well, obviously, with the fans, but you have to understand, like, from a standpoint of Slay, he's understands, very high IQ player. He's playing the odds, and he's got Drake London and 6'4", 215, whatever Drake is, and he's playing the post, and he's saying, all right, this is going to be slant. He's playing the post, and it's an option route, and he goes outside his corner route, and he guessed wrong, and that's part of defensive football, and the Falcons executed the play, and it looks bad, but he was playing the post, and Drake did a good job. And the other team gets paid too. Drake London's first round pick gets paid a lot of money. So Kirk Cousins obviously gets paid a lot of money. So I think people forget the other team is trying as well.
Just your other thoughts on the secondary last night, how they looked to you, the rest of the defense. Vic Fangio defense not looking good so far at the start of the year.
Ah, man, 2 weeks. Vic, poor Vic. They're turning on you.
Bend
They're turning on you, Vic.
John, bend, you will break, but bend until you break. It's not bend, but don't break. I don't want to hear that anymore. They break every single time.
Hey, I led the charge. I don't like the scheme. I think people have taught up to the scheme. Too many people play the scheme, and that makes it, at least the smart quarterbacks, and Cousins is in that category. Now, when you play younger we've seen some of these younger quarterbacks, it's going to look pretty good. You got to get there, though. And they're not going to get there with Derek Carr. But, yeah, I mean, guys who understand the defense, it's become a little bit too easy for them at times. And it happens with everything. It happened with Tony Dungy's cover 2. It happened with Pete Carroll's cover 3. And then you shift to something else. And, eventually you come back and it'll be back to cover 2 at some point, as it often is. People are catching up to it. But, yeah, I'm surprised I guess I should never be surprised, but I thought Vic would have a bigger honeymoon, but that's a bad loss.
Yeah, that's a tough loss last night. The Atlanta Falcons team that really didn't look all that good throughout the game. I thought the Eagles had that game in the bag until the last, 75, 80, 90 seconds when they went down the field. What was the next gen stat you gave? They had a 1% chance to win when it got
0.7% with 156.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
Just a brutal loss for this Eagles team. They fall to 1-1 on the season. Week 2 is officially in the books, everybody. It's going to be a quick turnaround as they now prepare for a tough Saints team that just destroyed the Dallas Cowboys in Arlington, in Dallas, Texas, on their home turf with 44 points. How is this bend but don't break defense going to stop that team right now, who's red hot? I don't see a guy who's going to stop Alvin Kamara, John. So
it's a week-to-week league. Just because you look good one week doesn't mean you're going to look good the next.
Right now, that game's not looking too good. So we'll see how it all plays out. We got Jeff Kerr in the green room. Appreciate everybody watching the show in the chat. I know a couple of you guys still tired from last night. It was a late night last night. So thanks everybody for being here this morning. Hit that like button. Jeff Kerr coming up next on Birds 365. Everybody stay tuned.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services. The first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to a Tuesday week 2 edition of Birds 365 after the Eagles collapse at the end. They fall to 1-1 on the season. Joined now by Jeff Kerr from CBS Sports. Jeff, welcome to the show, man, after a brutal loss for the Philadelphia Eagles in week 2. How you doing on this Tuesday morning?
I've been better. I mean, I slept. I slept 4 hours.
Yeah, 4 hours, baby.
That makes 3 of us. We got about 11 hours between the 3 of us.
Yeah. Slept. Felt Saquon Barkley last night. He ain't doing too well. He's pinning the loss on himself. I did think Reed Blankenship had some damning quotes though. For all you Nick Sirianni haters out there, and I know you're out there. That the coaches
out there.
Oh, the coaches did not talk to the players last night. The players talked more so. Jalen Hurts.
Yeah, it seems like he lost his voice talking.
From stuff I've been hearing, yes.
Yeah, Jalen was struggling with his voice last night after the game, and I don't think he was sick. So, but let's start with the play call. It drives me insane, Jeff. What the flip wrong is with the play call? I mean, it's perfect. They ran the same play, and they almost got a touchdown to Saquon. They thought it was a touchdown, overturned it, was down at the half-yard line. Then they pushed it in. Same play call. It was going to work. They weren't going to get a touchdown. They were going to get a first down. Game over. Everybody's happy. And he dropped the football. In the Saquon's defense, by the way, that's exactly what he said. Drop the ball. Let my team down. Why is Saquon the only one that can see that? I'm sure they're
because people love to blame the coaches for everything that goes wrong instead of blaming the players. Catch the ball. Catch the ball. It's amazing how they defend players. Catch the ball, get the first down, win the game. Plain simple. Oh, by the way, for all you people there that said they should have ran on 3rd and 3, what the hell was going to stop that defense from stopping Kirk Cousins anyway? Because they let go 6 plays in a minute 1, and they scored. I love all the geniuses. I really do. I really do, John. This is
Good.
me
I'm glad. I'm glad you're fired up about it because I
This
was
is me
fired
on
up about
4
it
hours
last
sleep.
night.
Again, and I say this. Look, I don't coach at the professional level. I do coach at the high school level. And look, make the play. Just make the play. It's simple.
And that's one of your best players. You're arguably
That was your best. That's your best player on the field, John.
Yeah, was having a great game. No reason not to trust him to make a play in a big situation, and he didn't make the play. I mean, that's it. Occam's razor. Simplest explanation is usually the right one. He dropped the ball.
I think I was more upset after the drop that they didn't go for it on 4th down because I figured, well, they can get 3 yards. They can win the game.
Well, they could, and they're very aggressive, and typically they went for 4th and 4 early in the game.
That's what I don't get. Why would you reverse?
Nick said after
ELG brought that up on Twitter, John. I'm not sure if you saw that. There's no consistency. There's some 4th downs Nick goes, there's some he doesn't. There's not really a lot of consistency.
Well, yeah, but Nick explained that in the press conference. I mean, he is right to an extent. Look, I don't agree with all of his decisions, and I didn't agree on 4th and 4 early in the game. I kicked the field goal there. I think it's a little bit too far. When you get +3 and you're at 4 or 5, I'm going to take the field goal. That's my personal opinion. But you can't just say, oh, we're always, and Nick said this, we're always going to go for it on 4th and 3. We're always going to go for it on 4th and whatever. You can't do that because then it becomes a tendency and everybody knows it and everybody's prepared for it. So there is a feel to it. You can't just say, oh, it's 4th and 3, 4th and 4 in the first quarter is the same as 4th and 3 in the fourth quarter. It's not with the game on the line. So that's where the intuition comes into it. And, but I wouldn't have had a problem if they went for it because, it's a 3-point game and it turns into a 6-point game. So you do force them, you take the field goal off and you force them to go the length of the field. Plus you're down to basically a minute 5, minute 10, which they scored in anyway. But you're probably able to get off the field better than what happens. Because and the most egregious part of the drop pass, perhaps, is the fact that the clock stopped.
And I think that's why people are upset with the pass. But
if you
catch the ball, it doesn't matter.
All I hear on this show all off season is how great this player is, and now you can't trust him to make that play. Does that make sense?
I mean, all I can say is what he said last night. He's made that catch. But when I logged into this, there's a stat out there, and people don't like to hear bad stats, John, but there is one. Most drops by a running back since 2021. Saquon Barkley.
Yep. Yeah. And that's got to be factored into the decision there, John. I'm sorry, but it does.
Well, then it's got to be factored in. Guess what? Accountability for everybody. All right, I'll factor that in. And Jeff knows. I already said he's not a great receiver when he's got to reach.
He never was.
No. So believe me, I factor that in. So what are these other morons? Why aren't they factoring in the fact that maybe he isn't the greatest receiver in the history of the world, and now you want to play revisionist history? So take some accountability. I'm not talking about you, Zander, but
no, I know what you're saying.
How about taking some accountability on that?
Well, my issue is he dropped the ball. Plain and simple. Yeah. You catch the ball. We're having a much different conversation this morning.
Oh, well, then we're not having a conversation because the game's over, and everybody's saying how great Saquon is.
You know what conversation we'd be having this morning, John? Because the Eagles' pass rush is pretty much non-existent. That's what we'd be having. Yeah,
well, which is true. And by the way, Jalen Carter didn't start that game, Jeff.
No, Milton Williams did.
Yeah. I get why everybody's on Bryce Huff. We were talking about that. But I'm more concerned about Jalen Carter. What the hell is going on with Jalen Carter?
5 pressures for 2 games. That's not what the Eagles thought they were getting.
It's not what I thought they were getting.
No.
I thought this was going to be a superstar level player.
Jalen was frustrated last night, by the way. We were talking to Jalen after the game.
What, Jalen Hurts or Jalen Carter?
Jalen Carter. Jalen Carter.
I'm sure he was. Why wouldn't he be? The production's not there. Josh Sweat says they're not on the same page again. He said the same thing last year. Get on the same page.
Yeah. So you mean to tell me that you got rid of Sean Desai, who ran the Vic Fangio scheme, and you bring in Vic Fangio, who runs
Matt Patricia was there last night.
Yeah, that was weird. What was he doing there?
Yeah. What was Matt Patricia doing there?
I saw him on the broadcast. I'm like, what the hell is Matt Patricia doing there?
Belichick was there for, I think, some reason as well, wasn't he?
Belichick was scouting his team for next year. He's like, "Oh, what do I got? What am I?"
Was he on the Manning cast?
Yeah, Belichick was on the Manning cast. I have to watch the Manning cast because apparently when
they're great. They take you through.
They were breaking it down like the entire comeback for the Falcons.
And it was Peyton, it was Eli, and it was Matt Ryan. So you had 3 high-level smart quarterbacks taking you through that 2-minute drill.
Really
I gotta
ask
Matt Ryan as a CBS employee how he's allowed to go on ESPN production.
Is he? I can't keep
up.
Oh,
yeah, he's on the NFL Today.
Yeah, I can't keep up. But
Jeff,
Matt's really smart.
Jeff, I want to ask about Jalen Hurts and just the decision he made at the end of the game. Forces that ball. Jesse Bates intercepts it. I thought it was a kind of a brutal decision by Jalen Hurts. You still have 20-plus seconds on the clock. You still have a timeout, and you're 15 yards away from being in Jake Elliott range. I think he could have gotten more than 15 yards. It's not like there were 6-7 seconds left. Get the ball down the field, take your timeout, clock the ball, and get in field goal range. He forces it into Jesse Bates' hands in double coverage. It was a tough decision for me.
I want to get to this, John, because from when Jalen made the decision to throw it, I saw Devonta Smith open. I don't know if you saw that.
He flashed open. Yeah, real quick.
Yeah, so maybe that's what Jalen was thinking.
The windows are tight in the NFL. You guys both know that.
They're very tight. That one was closing.
I mean, maybe that was a hero ball play. I don't know. That was.
Well, it was a bad throw on.
Yeah, it wasn't a good throw.
It was a bad throw, but I think it was a worse decision. There's no need to force the ball there, even to where if we threw it almost 30 yards downfield, I just didn't think he needed to even do that.
He doesn't, but if you see that flash, you're trying to win the game. And if he makes that completion, to Jeff's point, the game's over. The Eagles probably win because Jake's probably going to hit that.
You got to minimize your downside. That was a play with the timeout on the board. Any play was open. A QB draw, a run. It doesn't matter what it was. A pass to the middle of the field. Anything was open at that point because you still had the timeout. He didn't need to make that decision at all. It was hero ball.
Well, I'm not going to go that far. I think it was a poor decision, and I think it was even more than poor decision. I thought it was poorly executed throw. I'm not going to go full hero ball because I did see what Jeff saw. There was a little bit of flash when he said, "Oh, I might have this," and if he really Brett Favre'd it in there, on a line, maybe, but. Yeah, it was a terrible throw.
Yeah, I mean, you needed 15 yards for a win. It's terrible.
That's what I'm saying. It's the same thing with Saquon. It's just a bigger emphasis.
Yeah, I know. I'm judging the result. It was a bad decision.
I think it's a poor decision. But is it? I lean towards, if it's 50-50, I'd lean towards poor decision more. But if he does, fire it in there on the line, is it more 50-50 on poor execution? The throw was terrible.
It was a
bad throw.
Really bad throw.
The throw was terrible. That's what I'm trying to say. So if you're doing it, say, was it 50% poor decision, 50% poor throw, I would lean towards poor decision being 51, 52, but the throw could have screwed up the entire thing, and maybe it was a little bit more open if you're throwing a fastball in there on the line, but he didn't. So, no. But hero ball to me is what they did in Seattle. I don't think it was that. I don't think it was quite
Maybe
that.
it wasn't that egregious, but I think you got Jake Elliott. He's one of the best kickers in the league. And
well, not anymore. He's just average.
Kickers in the NFL right now are drilling 55-yarders like they're nothing. Take it. You need 15 yards to win the football game and get out of there with the win.
I thought everybody was after the London touchdown. Everybody said, because London got the 15-yard penalty, and everybody said, what a dumb play. I'm like, all right, he's got to kick a 48-yarder. Who cares? Bang. You know, it seems that's easy.
It's funny, though, because you can at least block a 48-yarder.
Well, you would think, yeah. But nobody is. The first 2 weeks have been crazy for kickers, Jeff. Crazy.
Oh, yeah. Well, did you see the stat where there's only like 4 missed field goals from 50-plus yards and Justin Tucker is 2 of them?
I know.
Yeah. But they're like 30. They're like 31 of 35. And the kid from Dallas, he might make an 80-yarder when it's all said and done.
Brandon Aubrey might need a Hall of Fame bus now because that guy is just going to break every kicking record there is.
Yeah. But the Eagles had more time, and I think, maybe the sense of urgency. Typically, you think, all right, there's only 20-something seconds left. You need urgency. But they didn't need that kind of – they had more opportunities. So I agree it was a poor decision. I'm just not going full-fledged hero ball quite yet. Now, getting back to Jeff, Nick got a little surly, and I got this from Dan Cilio on our postgame show. And I've talked about this since they made the decision. I don't like this setup. And we saw an example of why last night when I think it was Jeff McClain talking about clarifying the play calls. And Nick
and Nick thought he was getting baited or something like that.
And Nick went, Kellen is the offensive coordinator that makes the calls. Yeah. If you're trying to stir that up, I'm the head coach. And people took it the wrong way. I had Cilio taking it the wrong way, saying he's throwing Kellen Moore under the bus. This is why I don't like this setup. If you're taking away the play calling from the offensive coordinator you hired that everybody wanted him to hire because they didn't want him to play call in game 2, what you're going to get killed for that. And by the way, it was a good play call, and people don't even understand that from Kellen Moore, so that wasn't the problem. So
John,
what is he taking away?
The number one question I get from people in general, what does Nick Sirianni do? That's the number one question I get. They don't know. Oh, by the way, the Reed Blankenship quote escalated that. What does he do?
What did Reed say? I didn't.
Reed pretty much said none of the coaches spoke. We're a player-led team in the locker room. When there was a message from the coaches, and they're so what does Nick Sirianni do?
Well, maybe the whole player-led team thing isn't working well. Let the coaches lead the damn team. If the we're on a historic collapse coming off of last year when it was player-led. Now you're coming into this year and you just collapsed to the Atlanta Falcons. By the way, I got to say it. I think you guys let Jalen Hurts off the hook there. It was 1st and 10 with 25 seconds on the clock.
Well, I'm typically a Jalen hater, I'm told. So
I can't let him off the hook. Jalen answers your questions, John. So you must not be that big of a hater.
Yeah. I just said I don't think it was hero ball. I think he pushed it too far. I think he made a poor decision, but the execution was even poorer. But I don't think it was a Seattle situation where he's going off script and
just trying to force it into AJ.
I get it, but John, similar to your sentiment on Saquon, where sometimes you have to put it on the player. This is a quarterback.
Well, I said it was poor decision, poor execution.
But again, Zander, this is the other problem. The only player everybody ever seems to blame is the quarterback.
Yeah, but Jeff,
let's not blame Dallas Goedert because he can't get open.
I get it, but Dallas Goedert had the first down catch.
Whoa.
Jeff Kerr,
Dallas Goddard
Jalen's
taking
making $50
strays.
million, and we're looking for Dotson and Goddard and everybody else.
Well, Dotson can't get open
How
either.
about Jalen Hurts elevates the team when A.J. Brown's out? You make a dumb decision there. You need 15 yards to win the football game and get out of there with the win, and he forces it on first and 10.
I still say you guys have unrealistic expectations on this quarterback. You think he's a top 3 quarterback, and he's not.
Well,
That's
he's
the
paid like
problem.
one.
No, he's
not.
He's the
Not
10th highest
anymore.
paid quarterback in football. I'm tired of that. He's
Yeah.
the 10th highest paid quarterback in football.
I'm
He
not
is
letting
what
him
he's
off the
gonna
hook
be.
like you are. I'm sorry. I think that was a terrible decision.
I'm not letting him off the hook.
Coming off of a bunch of bad decisions last week, coming off of bad decisions last year, it's now 24 turnovers in 18 games.
You guys have so
gotta
many
clean it up.
unrealistic expectations on this football team, man.
Jeff,
Yeah,
24
Jeff carrying the
24
heavy
turnovers in
lifting for
18
me. I
games.
love
This
it.
is not a Super
unrealistic
Bowl team.
expectations.
They don't have a pass rush. They're old. They have a lot of bad draft picks playing. This team is not a Super Bowl
It's a
team.
very top heavy team. Very top
is.
heavy.
Yeah, everybody
Not
goes,
a lot of
it's
depth.
a fantasy football manager's dream, and that's the problem with football fans today. They look at everything betting in fantasy football.
Oh, I love Jeff Kerr.
I'm not a bettor and I'm not a fantasy player, Jeff.
I'm not saying you.
looking-
I'm just saying everybody else.
just saying,
We have A.J. Brown. We have Devonta Smith. We have Dallas Goddard. We have Saquon Barkley. Well, yeah, you also
I
have Bryce
love
Huff. You have Nolan Smith. You have Jordan Davis. You have Devin White, who can't even get active. It's come on.
Sometimes you need your quarterback to elevate the team, man. That's football. That's why they're
my
paid the big
favorite-
bucks.
He's not Patrick Mahomes.
Okay, I'm just saying. At some point, you have to rely on your quarterback to make up for the difference. A.J. Brown goes down. Everyone's like, "Oh, what's Jahan Dotson going to do? Jalen Hurts needs to elevate the team."
How many times did I warn people on this stinking show about
A
John
lot.
Dotson? You know, to Jeff's point, and Jeff's doing God's work this morning because I'm tired. This is the greatest Jeff Kerr spot
Jeff
ever.
Kerr, 4 hours sleep is beautiful. When you're listening to sports talk radio on the way home to get you fired up, it's even better.
My God, people overrate these players. Saquon in the passing game. How many times have I talked about that, Zander? The player that they think exists doesn't exist anywhere. Maybe a little bit with Christian, maybe a little, but even that, it's not like he's playing
He's got his
receiver.
flaws too.
Yeah. That player doesn't exist. Devin White. How many times I warned people? He wasn't a good player in Tampa.
I've had Tampa Bay people tell me he wasn't a good player in Tampa. Well, we all know what we're talking about. So,
Jahan Dotson, he never cracked 550 yards in Washington, and people think he's going to replace A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown?
But just remember how he fleeced the Commanders. Well, I got news for you. Adam Peters is pretty good at his job, too.
Adam Peters wasn't getting a third-round pick from anybody else for Jahan Dotson. How he overpaid for Jahan Dotson.
That's what happens when your third wide receiver competition is between Paris Campbell, who can't see the field, Britton Covey, who only seems to get screens in the end zone. By the way, Britton played awesome last night. I'm not gonna
he did play awesome, and 2 of his plays, not big plays, but they were 9-10-yard plays, were called back on those illegal downfield calls. But Jalen at least trusts Britton Covey. He didn't trust anybody else besides Devontae.
He went to Britton a lot. You're right, John. He clearly trusts Britton Covey a lot more than he trusts Dotson or really even Goddard. I mean, Goddard wasn't really anywhere until the end of the game.
I have held on to this for a long time. Zach Ertz was twice the tight end Dallas Goddard was. And Dallas Goddard's
receiving.
Yeah, if I said this in the summer, I got ripped. I said, I think Dallas Goddard's a little overrated. I got destroyed in the chat.
Dallas Goddard's a great blocker. I agree with you. I agree with John.
I
agree with John on that. But we put Dallas Goddard on this pedestal of the Zach Ertz pentathlon. It's just not that. It's not.
No, certainly not as a receiver. I mean, Zach was a great receiver. I mean, what did he have? 116 catches the 1 year? It was absurd.
Yeah, he has the record for receptions by time. Oh, by the way, Zach Ertz also caught the winning touchdown in the Super Bowl.
Yeah, he got the 4th and 1 too.
Yes, he did.
Yeah, we were talking to Nick Foles yesterday.
By the way, John, while I'm on my little tangent here, how could the Eagles lose on Nick Foles night? The Eagles lost their final game at Veterans Stadium in the NFC Championship to a team who never won a game in 40-degree weather. Yes, they can lose on Nick Foles night.
Yeah, Nick Foles night. It was Jason Kelsey night. It was Nick Foles night. It was Jalen Brunson night. It was everybody. Shane Gillis night. It was Bradley Cooper
I
night.
love Jason Kelsey, but man, are the Kelseys milking this thing. They really are.
Yeah, the Kelseys are overexposed. Come on, tone it down. I do love the Buffalo Wild Wings.
They're on the broadcast. They're everywhere.
Yeah.
The Kelseys, man.
I like that Buffalo Wild Wing guy.
I do too. Honestly.
Yeah.
Like Jason does
Free
some
plug
fun
for
stuff.
Buffalo Wild Wings. If you want to advertise on the show, but I do like that giant buffalo on those commercials.
By the way, for those of you local guys, PJ Willihan's is a much better chain than Buffalo Wild.
All right, we're giving free plugs all over the place. PJ Willihan's, right near my home in Haddonfield, my former home. So, there's a good one there. But yeah, free plugs. I don't want to. I was going to say something about Haddonfield relations to somebody else, but I best not do that.
Jeff, let's go to the defensive line. You brought it up. You weren't happy with them. What's your level of concern right now on Bryce Huff through 2 weeks of the season here?
I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, like John does it through 2 weeks. But from what I saw in training camp, I'm on your side on this, Zander. I'm concerned. Like we were talking to him last night, he looked like a lost puppy. Like he had no answers.
Yeah, he's shocked. I think he's shocked by the attention.
Yeah. And this ain't New York.
This is how it works. This is how it works in Philadelphia.
Yeah.
If you're not playing,
it's amazing. By the way, when it comes to football, like typically New York is the major media market for everything, but not in football. Man, there is more of a microscope on the Eagles than even the New York teams. And the Eagles have the largest media contingent in the NFL, and they have had it for many years. I think it might be overwhelming Bryce Huff.
This is where I think it got it last night. Like it's me, DeCecco, EJ Smith, Ed Kratzer just talking to him, and all of a sudden you see like 5 cameras coming. He's like,
"Oh, the camera people, man!
They pissed off Jalen Carter last night.
Oh, good. I hope Jalen.
It was just me and Martin talking to him, and he's answering our questions. And all of a sudden, the camera people came, and some choice words coming out of Jalen's mouth.
Good for Jalen. Good for Jalen.
And everybody's like, "Well, Jalen Carter's frustrated." I'm like, "Yeah, he's frustrated, but not for what you're frustrated, not for what you think he's frustrated about."
Yeah, I don't want to compare them to. They're the worst people in the world.
Yeah, I felt bad for him because I was in the middle of asking him a question when that happened, and then he's just said to me, "What was your question again?" And I'm like.
No. It was like a morgue when we got in the locker room. So at least they're taking the loss hard, I guess.
Oh, they were. I think Slay took it hard. I know Barkley did.
Yeah, so Slay's getting a lot of crap. He was on social media talking about the final play, apologizing to Philadelphia. Bad thing to do because people are just shitting on him. But that's a tougher play. I was watching that as well. And he was clearly, was Drake London. I don't know if you heard before you came on, but I was talking about it. So Drake London, if you're a cornerback in the NFL, and you're in the red zone, you got the 6'4", 215-pound contested catch guy. He was playing inside, assuming the post was coming, and it was an option route. And Drake broke it off. The other team's playing too, Jeff. Why is that so hard for
Jake
people
London
to understand?
was the number 8 pick in the draft, right? 7 or 8. He doesn't suck.
No,
yeah, Jeff. I did not think though he was going to be the guy to beat us last night. He had a couple big catches for that team, and he had slant.
Well, I'd mentioned on Birds.
John's right. You got to factor the slant. It's a tougher decision, and I think than it is to make in the moment than it looks on tape. But he had Darius Slay flat-footed on that play and just easily got open, inside the 5-yard line and got the touchdown.
I had made the point on the pregame show, or maybe it was Birds. They were unable to get the football to Drake London in week 1, and I thought the overcorrection was coming. I mentioned it a couple times. Saw it with Marvin Harrison Jr. in Arizona.
Yeah.
We saw it a couple years ago with Devontae Smith in that Detroit game. He didn't get a catch, and all of a sudden the Eagles are throwing them the football 2 times in a row to start the next game. That's what people do, and they managed to get it to him 6 times. Drake London, 7 targets. I saw that part of it coming. But yeah, I mean,
it didn't feel forced though. It was interesting. It's because I think it was, I can't remember if it was Morris or Zach Robinson that said, they said, look, he's gonna get open. We're not really concerned.
All I'm saying is, thank God I'm not. But if I'm a corner in that situation, I'm playing the post as well. It makes sense. That's the problem.
Yeah.
And Slay's a high IQ player, so he's playing the odds, and sometimes they get you.
Yeah, I get what you're
got
saying.
You John, before that play happened, I actually thought we were going to talk to Avonte Maddox last night because I thought he made one heck of a play in the end zone.
Man, he came back. He hurt I guess it was his back. I thought it was his hamstring because he came off like he was chasing, I think it was Mooney, and just a little bit of an overthrow. And he
went to attempt, right? He went to attempt, right?
I don't think he ever went in the 10. I was surprised because I'd oh, that's hamstring. That's multiple weeks. He was kind of like hopping like it was his hamstring as he was chasing him. And I think it might have been his back. And a couple minutes later, he's got his helmet. He's testing it out, and he got back out there. So,
but by the way, they wanted to test Cooper. I saw Kirkland Cooper's what Cooper was in position to make a play, so they couldn't go. They couldn't go that way.
Yeah. He wasn't out there a lot though, because Avonte got I forget the snap counts. I gotta pull it up, but so Avonte came back pretty quickly. And in that time, Cooper was only out there for 1 snap, so it was 1 play. That's how long. And Avonte was right back out there. And in that amount of time, I got the people crapping on Avonte Maddox with the glass comments. Those are the people that drive me crazy.
Those are the same people who have a paper cut and have to leave work. I'm being honest.
So he hurt his back evidently, and he was back in not necessarily if they didn't have a nickel out there, but Cooper only played 1 play. Kaylee Ringo played 2, so might have been involved with that as well. Because Ed asked me at one point, "Is that Ringo in the slot?" And I was writing something and I didn't see it. So I'll have to look at that on the film. No Isaiah Rodgers. So that was a big thing. What did you make of no Isaiah Rodgers?
They can't afford to get him on the field. It's not a good matchup. Falcons have some big targets.
Yeah, I said that
doesn't work for him.
Yeah. Just not a physical enough player to deal with wide receivers of that size.
Yeah, I think it's still injury related. I think it was more of a safety blanket, but I do think Quignon's staying outside now. I think he's done enough. Even though it was disappointing.
So
he got caught by Mooney at one point on that final drive, I think.
Yeah, and he blamed himself, but overall, he was targeted 4 times, allowed 2 catches for I think it was like 30 yards. And
yeah, whole collapse. What do you think of Vic's scheme in general? Where are you? I mean,
I hate it. I always hated it. I don't understand the love for this guy. This guy who hasn't won jack.
Oh, I understand the love for him.
Jeff, it's the bend but eventually break defense. It's not the bend but don't break.
In fairness, Jim Johnson did that too, but Jim Johnson doesn't have a Super Bowl.
Different era, though. Different. John points it out. I mean, the NFL is now caught up to it. Everybody does the Vic Fangio defense. It's not this, different line of thinking anymore. It's all over the league. And
you're right, Zander. Now it's let's run the ball because that's how we know we can beat it, and let's bank on defenses not being able to tackle.
How does, by the way, with CJ Gardner-Johnson, and CJ, if you're listening, you might want to turn up the music because I'm going to rip you a little bit.
He might, if he knows how to do it, he might be recording the screen as we speak.
Yeah, well, how was a guy, because he made what would have been the biggest play of the game.
That was a great play.
If Saquon makes the catch, the biggest play of the game is him stuffing Bijan Robinson like he's Ronnie Lott.
That was a hell play.
It really was.
I mean,
how
Bijan
does
had
that
all the
guy?
momentum too. I mean,
Yeah.
he stopped him, and I'm like, holy shit! Did
But this
Bijan
is the
just
same
get
guy
stopped?
who. This is the same guy who also can't make a tackle on
Yes.
In
on
the
Darnell
open field,
Mooney.
yeah.
How is that possible? How
That's
is the
weird.
same guy? How does he look like Ronnie Lott on one play, and he looks like a matador with Darnell Mooney, who's not the most physical player in the world?
Oh, by the way, that was one of the plays the Eagles blitzed.
Yeah. Well.
Yeah, so that's why they don't blitz for all you.
By the way, nobody
people.
knows what a blitz is.
No one
either.
knows what a blitz is here. They
They
don't. If
Vic,
you want to,
I see all these numbers because I know you're a big stat guy, Jeff. A blitz is when you send more than 4 rushers. So if you're sending, for instance, Zach Bond, but you're dropping out whomever, Bryce Huff, Josh Sweat, Brandon Graham, whomever, as a that's not a blitz. That's a Dom Capers zone blitz as a term. Like Jody used to love semantics. Like I would tell him big nickel. That's what they call big nickel. Well, they say, why do you call it big nickel when it should be dime or whatever? Because that's what they label it. That's what they call it. A zone blitz is a zone blitz because they call it a zone blitz. But when you're using statistics, a blitz is, are you rushing more than 4? And the Eagles were at 17 or 18% in week 1.
It's around there.
And everybody's like, oh, they blitz more. No, he actually blitzed less than he typically does. But if they see the wrong guy rushing, they think it's a blitz. They're not good at the blitz. Why would? And by the way, Vic Fangio, his history is pretty lengthy. And when he does blitz, sometimes it's a run blitz, which is another thing people have a difficult time understanding. But I love Vic as a defensive coach. I just think that's part of it. If you're good, people copy you, and then the league catches up, and you got to evolve. I think, and he has evolved a little bit, but I think he needs to evolve a little bit more because too many veteran quarterbacks have seen this defense too much and are starting to figure it out.
You know what, John? And Vic Fangio's had about 5 or 6 different defenses over his long NFL career, but he could change it up completely next week. I don't think it matters with that personnel.
Well, good point. If you can't rush the passer, you're in trouble.
The Eagles do 2 things that just are cringeworthy on defense. They can't tackle. They can't rush the passer.
It's not a good twosome. Although, CJ looked like Ronnie Lott on one play. So
yeah,
and that would have been a highlight of the game if the running back. So if you want to look up, we'll end it there with Jeff Kerr. Thank you, Jeff, for getting up early with us. I do appreciate that because I know I know firsthand how long these nights are.
I'll second that, Jeff. The appreciation.
Yeah.
John and I don't make it any easier by actually doing this before we actually come on and do this.
Yeah. At Jeff Kerr CBS, make sure you follow Jeff on X. The idea of decision making, you can go on Google or whatever you want to do. Artificial intelligence now, ask Siri, whatever your favorite thing is about decision making. And, there's a bunch of books to help you, but help people with everyday life. And the first thing they all say is a good decision does not guarantee a good outcome. First thing.
Yep.
And what that means is, hey, shit happens. But the more good decisions you make, the more good things that'll happen over the long term. The Eagles made a good decision on the Kellen Moore play call, and they got a bad outcome. It's as simple as that.
They made a good decision to sign Saquon Barkley, too. It's going to pay off.
In short term, bad outcome. Good point.
It just sucks that's the result, and it sucks that we're talking about a loss when, let's be honest, they should have won. And John, you've seen them. Zander, you've seen them. I've seen some poor collapses over the Eagles. And I said to John, this reminds me of 97, week 3 against the Cowboys. They had that game won. Now, that was on the road, but they had that game won multiple times, and they just kept finding ways to lose it. And it comes down to Tom Hutton can't hold a snap on a 20-yard field goal, and they lost.
Yeah. That's a poor job by the coach when the holder drops the snap.
Yeah, it's coach's fault. It's also coach's fault. Ty Detmer beats a blitz, and it's Freddie Salomon on the play before that. Yeah, it's it's always coaches.
But to the point about it's always the coaches, that harkens right to my point of why this was a shitty setup from Jeffrey Lurie from step one, because this was always going to happen. Just happened a little bit earlier than I expected.
Our buddy Bill Colarulo he said, I remember him tweeting this. It was like a random thought I just have a bad feeling about this whole setup, this Nick Sirianni setup. And,
yeah,
I'm like, you know what, Bill? I'm with you.
Yeah, and I wonder if Nick is going to start putting his own career before everybody else. Because look, this coaches get fired in this league, and he might not fall on a sword for a team that's kind of stripped him of all the duties in the last couple of years.
Yeah. I mean, people, Doug Peterson had tremendous loyalty to this team right up until he didn't.
Yeah.
And
Doug Pearson still is risking his career for a certain coach.
Yeah,
and it's going to ruin him.
I love Doug
poor
Peterson.
Press.
I can't figure that out.
But by the way, so here's an honest question, guys.
Eagles, by the way, are 32nd in the NFL in giving up yards per play.
Oh, lovely. Great.
Good.
Lovely.
Here's an honest question.
2 weeks, though.
Say Nick Sirianni doesn't last the year, right? Does he get another job?
I think he will.
I think
3 straight playoff appearances, NFC title, 30. What is he? 35 and 18, somewhere in that range.
Highest winning percentage in
I think he gets
91-year-old franchise history. There's a lot of. Have you seen some of the coaches in this league?
I have. One just benched the quarterback he didn't want.
I agree with Dave there.
I do too. He didn't draft him, and the GM did not draft him. That is not their fault.
And Dave Canales only has one shot to be a head coach. And look, not that Andy Dalton's great, but at least you can run an offense with Andy Dalton. I've been talking about quarterback play, Jeff. All these young quarterbacks are so absurdly unprepared to play because of what they're doing in college.
Caleb Williams looks unprepared, and Caleb Williams is a talent.
Yeah.
But he's unprepared.
But they don't know how to play the position, and there's not enough time to teach them, but they have to play them. Well, in Dave Canales' case, he fails, and he's going to fail because he's got a terrible team.
And he's
never going to get another opportunity.
No. You know what? He'll go back to being an offensive coordinator and recommending Geno Smith and Baker Mayfield and those guys.
Meanwhile, those are the guys who can play.
Yeah,
Geno Smiths who've learned and go through it, and the Baker Mayfields and the Sam Darnolds, because I believe Sam Darnold's going to have a good year. I don't know how good, but
John,
he's off to a good
you
start.
called that months ago. I'll give you your flowers
because he's got a good supporting cast, and I think he
I always
knows how
said,
to play the position now.
There's one thing I always liked about Baker. He has a really good head on his shoulders, and I can't remember if it was. I think it was Fox that interviewed him, and he said, "You know what? People have a plan." He said it didn't work. He goes, "Do I want to be in 14 to 3 years? No," but he said, "I'm better off for it, and I'm a better quarterback for it." And Liam Cohen that year he was in LA. Gets with Dave Canales. Now he's back with Liam Cohen again. Everything's coming up roses for that guy right now.
Jeff, we got to run. Thanks for joining the show, man, this morning. Great stuff, great debate, good conversation, good energy.
I have to bring it for you, Zander.
Jeff Kerr, we appreciate you bringing it on Birds 365, brother. We'll talk to you again next
thank
week.
you, Jeff, because you took some of the pressure off me. I appreciate it.
I have to speak for you too at some time. Sometimes.
Jeff, thank you, man. We'll talk to you again next week, all right, brother?
See you guys. Thanks.
All right, there's Jeff Kerr. Great stuff from Jeff Kerr on this morning after 4 hours. We got some energy on this Birds 365. Johnny Mac for not much sleep coming off a tough Eagles loss.
Yeah, I was
last night.
surprised. Jeff bringing the heat.
Yeah,
I
man.
was
Jeff bringing the
surprised.
heat. I love it. I like going at it with him. You know, I'm going to stick to my guns on what I think, though, about the quarterback.
Well, good. I think people are too soft on Jalen normally, because I constantly get killed for being a Jalen Hurts hater because I said something in 2021 that people act like I said yesterday.
I know.
You know, he's posted on. So, I mean, people are morons. I'm sorry, but yeah, players evolve, opinions evolve. And by the way, one of the things with that, Kyler Murray, he had a perfect passer rating, by the way. He might be the most underrated quarterback in the NFL.
Jonathan Gannon's got that team looking pretty damn good over in Arizona, so we'll monitor that. John, before I get to a break, I do want to hit on – I don't want to miss out any of these super chats. Appreciate everybody, by the way, in the chat this morning. Thanks, everybody. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. Tough loss last night, but hopefully this team can bounce back and get back in the win column. Tough game coming up next week now. But as John points out, it's a week-to-week league. Let's hit these super chats. Johnny Mac. Prince Swayze checks in, $10. Prince, thank you, brother. He says the game was lost when Nick decided to go for it on 4th and 3 instead of taking the 3 points in the first quarter. Why do we go for it in the first quarter? That was dumb. Stop it, Prince. And we said this in the open that it was a dumb decision. I don't know if the game was lost at that point.
I don't think they lost. There's a lot of football.
No, it was a dumb decision. I mean,
but yeah, I didn't agree with the decision. It was 4th and 4, I think. And yeah, to me, the cutoff is 3, and that's just me. You can go about it in different ways. Obviously, Detroit would be the most likely to go with their recent history. But yeah, I would have kicked the field goal, the points, but that didn't lose the game. Come on, it's first quarter for early. You saw what lost the game. And plainly in front of your face.
Yeah, it's funny. You know, everybody's mad at you for saying that about Saquon, but Saquon himself said it. Hey, he said, none of these questions are being asked if I just catch that football. So Saquon's taking the accountability. It's good leadership from Saquon Barkley. Bearded Willie checks in with $10. Appreciate it, Bearded Willie. He said, I know it's week 2, but I still don't understand our identity on offense. We opened the game with 2 runs by Hurts. Where's Dallas Goedert? He should be on a milk carton. Bearded, you're right about Dallas Goedert. John, what's your reaction there to Dallas Goedert and just what Bearded has?
Yeah, a lot of Dallas Goedert. I guess people are turning on Dallas Goedert.
Well, no, I mean, John, look, we talked about it yesterday. We did think he was going to have a bigger role. You lose A.J. Brown, right? You're like, okay, somebody's got to step up. It's going to be
and there's not like it. The stunning amount of lack of talk about it's weird. Like people take A.J. for granted. I mean, how many times do you have to see it? This is a shitty offense when AJ's not on the field. It becomes much more difficult. Everything.
Well, and that's why I think Jalen deserves some accountability too, John. I mean, look, other great quarterbacks in this league can lose a receiver and still find a way to win.
You can't lose a receiver. There's like
I just
when the Vikings when the Vikings lost Jefferson, they didn't they didn't just replace him.
Yeah, but they didn't have a quarterback that people think Jalen Hurts is. When Josh Allen loses a star receiver, he still finds ways to win games. Patrick Mahomes. Now, I know those are the 2 best quarterbacks in the league, but that's what everybody wants Jalen to be.
Yeah, come on. I mean, Josh Allen's 2-0. All right, he lost a bunch of receivers. He's 2-0. We'll see how it progresses because at some point, I think they made a bad decision unless Keon Coleman can speed up and they get some better receivers. And the other kid, what's his name?
No, he left.
No, he left. I'll look it up. But they have 2 guys with some upside. And we'll see where it goes.
Khalil Shakir, is that it?
Yeah, Shakir looks pretty good, or at least that looks like he has a little bit of an upside. But yeah, that was a strange decision. They're 2-0. If Saquon catches the ball, the Eagles are 2-0. So what the hell's the difference? And they lift it, and he lifts the team. Then Jalen lifts the team over Atlanta despite not having A.J. Brown. That's how razor thin that margin is. So, but it is weird. It is weird. Like if there is any player that you should jump on the sword for And everybody typically jumps on the sword for Saquon and Jalen. If there's any player you should protect at all costs, it's A.J. Brown.
Yeah.
Any player.
He proved, I mean, he's the most valuable player on this football team, maybe, John.
Well, the quarterback is always, and that, but besides quarterback, because of the nature of the position, the quarterback is always the most important. Whether you have a great quarterback, a mediocre quarterback, or the worst quarterback in the NFL, it's always the most important position on the field. Other than that, yes, he has surpassed Lane Johnson as the most important player on the Philadelphia Eagles. And I don't know if anybody knows it because they take him for granted. You see the offense when he's not on the field.
Yeah,
it's all of a sudden they're making all kinds of mistakes, 3 turnovers, all these turnover worthy throws. They're still scoring 34 points and however amount of plays in Green Bay. They didn't even have a lot of plays, and it's so easy. And what happened this week? What's the difference? It's pretty freaking obvious.
You're right. Let's get to another super chat real quick before we have hopefully Chris Franklin will join us here at 9:20. So just a couple of minutes left. James Carver checks in. Everyone wanted the Philly prior to game, but had they run it then, the same people would have complained about not running. You're right, James Carver. I didn't expect a Philly in that one. And then James Carver again. No one complains about Jalen's protections last night versus blaming Jalen. Grant and to lesser degree Dallas blew blocking assignments repeatedly last night. Yeah, Carver, we talked about that a little bit on the post-game show. Johnny Mac, just so you know, James joined me on the post-game show, so I got to put a face to a name and talk to James on the show last night, Johnny Mac. It was great.
Nice. Yeah, well, Grant Calcaterra is going to miss a bunch of blocks, so get used to that.
Yeah.
And then, if you put any tight end up against, I don't know the plays he's talking about, but if you put any tight end against defensive end, the whole NFL thought process on tight ends is lose slowly. That's sort of the new, talking about blocking. Lose, you're going to lose, just lose slowly. In the case of Brandt, he's going to lose quickly. In the case of Dallas, he's going to lose slowly.
John, one last thing before we get to the break that I'm disappointed with you in. You guaranteed me, John, a Bryce Huff sack.
Yeah, that's
night.
on me.
I'm going into that game. I'm thinking, John, he never.
That's on me.
Ray, I'm thinking Bryce Huff. Here he comes. He was nowhere. Johnny Mac. I was disappointed in Bryce Huff last night. Big time disappointed.
Yeah, that's fine. You should be. You should, but you should be disappointed in the entire defensive front.
Yeah,
the entire defensive front. One sack against a quarterback that can't move.
John, are you getting concerned about Jordan Davis? This is year 3 now, man.
Yeah. I'm concerned about Jalen Carter. Like, I don't know what the hell's going on with Jalen Carter. I mean, you talk about Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff didn't even make the box score because he didn't do anything.
He didn't do a thing, man.
Jalen Carter made the box score because he had one assisted tackle.
Yeah, there was one play where he blew up the backfield.
Yeah, I know the play you're talking about, but come on. This is supposed to be, I would always temper people. No, he's not Aaron Donald, but a lot of people like to throw that name out. I don't know what happened to Jalen Carter, but he's not playing well.
It's been tough sledding for the Georgia Bulldogs that we drafted. Everybody's calling us the Philadelphia Bulldogs and all this crap. None of them have looked good so far. And just a brutal
SEC football, James Carver.
John, I'm sure you read a little bit of Les Bowen's Twitter last night. He was on fire last night. And Les pulls no punches. He's okay in terms of objectivity. He doesn't care about pleasing fans. And he's like, the last good defensive lineman the Eagles have drafted was Fletcher Cox in 2012. And I'm like, oh my God, all the draft picks we've spent in the last couple years, and then the last 5-6 years, first, second, third rounders. You're telling me the last one that's worth a damn was Fletcher Cox in 2012. Now, granted, he was a Hall of Fame draft pick, but shit, man, these defensive tackles, They better figure it out here, Johnny Mac.
Yeah, well, yeah, that Fletcher's another guy. It's weird. He was so good for so long, and then people said, "Well, he's not as good as he used to be." As he aged, failing to understand how good he was.
Yeah, he was damn good in his last year.
I mean, Chris Lindstrom's a really good player, and he is. He's really good, and it's one of those instances where, I think most fan bases are very provincial. I think they only pay attention to their teams. That's not just Philadelphia; that's everywhere. And you do have to look at the opponent. And Chris Lindstrom pretty much handled Jalen Carter.
Yeah, they didn't even double team him, John.
No, he's a really good player. And I'm going to retweet if everybody wants to look at it. Brandon Thorne's sort of an offensive line film guy. And he's at Brandon Thorne NFL, and he just put up a clip of Chris Lindstrom versus Jalen Carter. And there are a couple plays where Jalen got some decent movement and a little bit of pressure. But for the most part, yeah, Chris Lindstrom did a good job on him.
Yeah, I'm going to give him a little bit more time, but you're right, definitely concerning. Just real quick, I'm going to read these two supers. Sorry, guys, we got to get to Chris Franklin, who just checked into the green room. Brian Pumper, Bryce Huff wears zero for a Bryce Huffle, zero for a reason.
Oh,
These Georgia Bulldogs to the end of Howie. Brian, I wouldn't go that far, man. I don't think Howie's going anywhere. Daniel Bigelow checks in. I'm a huge Bulldogs fan as well, and I'm disappointed in these guys. They've seriously let me down. Bigelow, might be time to join Alabama, baby. Roll Tide, baby. Georgia Bulldogs not looking good so far for the Eagles. Let's get to our commercial break. Appreciate everybody in the chat. Hit that like button. We'll be back in 3 minutes. Our man, Chris Franklin, looking sharp on 4 hours of sleep. Look at him, Johnny Mac, in the green room.
Oh, he was dressed to the nines yesterday.
To the nines, baby.
I should have took a picture of Chris.
Yeah, we'll get to Chris Franklin coming up next in 3 minutes on Birds 365.
If you missed any of today's show on the JAKIB Media channel, listen to the podcast on your way home. Available on YouTube, Apple, and Spotify.
He's blocked well and tries to cut through the middle. Oh!
Your gut says Miami is going to win, and you should take the over. Your gut also said your NFT selfies would only go up in value. They didn't. But your head is on Sports Grid and knows the QB is in concussion protocol. The backup has a 45 QBR against the zone coverage. The New York D has the most sacks in the league. So yeah, trust your head. It's smarter to be on Sports Grid.
Score and save at Southeastern PA and Delaware with Colony Pools this football season, and let the experts close your pool with a custom Merlin safety cover in green for the birds. And if you join our Winter Watch team, we'll give you another 20% off, and Colony Pools will handle it all. Keep your tiles on your pool, not in your pool. Fly with Colony right now, Birds fans. Visit flywithcolony.com.
Hi everybody, my name's Jason Lombardi. I'm an inspector at DryTech. At DryTech we offer three major services, the first one being basement waterproofing. The second service we offer is foundation and structural repairs. And then the third service that we offer is mold remediation. If you feel you are having a waterproofing issue, give DryTech a call or check us out online.
Heading down the shore, have a ball once more.
Here, imaginations run wild and time stands still. Because here, you can find the best of the Jersey Shore, all on one 5-mile island. So leave the old you behind and get lost in the woods.
Wild, wild, wildwood days.
Plan your stay in the Wildwoods today.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to an Overreaction Tuesday edition of Birds 365 after the Eagles blow it down the stretch and the Falcons get the win 22-21. Eagles move to 1-1 on the 2024 football season. Joined now by Chris Franklin from NJ.com. Chris, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Tuesday morning after a tough Eagles loss?
I'm still trying to process all what happened. It was all good just a week ago. Yeah, it felt like it was all good just a week ago. It
was all good at 1:45 left when Kellen Moore
forget a week ago, man.
Drew up a play to win the game, and there was a lack of execution. And to his credit, Saquon Barkley took full accountability. If you make that simple catch, Chris Franklin, none of these discussions are even happening. We'd be talking about the crappy pass rush and nitpicking, but nitpicking at 2-0 is a hell of a lot better than watching a collapse when your win percentage, according to Next Gen Stats, was, I believe, 99.3%. Where do you start? What's the biggest problem in that collapse?
I know that everybody is talking about analytics was good. Analytics is good. Say, hey, go for it at the time. But I think when you look at it, and I'm against going for a pass in that situation. I really am, because I know you say, oh wow, it's easy pitch and catch type deal or thing. I'm against it because I think if you really truly believe in your offensive line, and they can say they're stacking the boxes or what have you, there's ways to get around stacking the boxes. This is where you need your creativity to shine in this moment. You can spread. We've seen so many bunch times. We see all these shifts in motion. Where was that true shifts in motion? Why not spread them out? Why not try to run all tackle?
Motion. We haven't brought up motion. I'm glad you brought up. Why didn't they motion more? Go ahead.
You could have done that, or you could have ran behind your two best when you're running the ball. Your two best offensive linemen to run behind are Landon Dickinson and Jordan Mailata. Just statistically, it's proven that way last year. It's starting to prove its way against this year. Why not run off tackle? There's something you're not running right at Brady Jarrett. But why not run off tackle? I think that the decision to pass the ball was just asinine, in my opinion. I wouldn't have done that. And now you look at the fact that bad decision led to that drive. And now we're talking about a situation now looking long term. I know it's only week 2, but you had a chance to go up a game over the 49ers and the Lions, 2 teams you will be fighting for.
And the Cowboys.
And the Cowboys, too. 3 teams you were fighting for, potentially. Now the Cowboys aren't for the division, but potentially for the 1 seed overall. And you literally squandered that away. You called a pass and squandered that away to get that early edge, which is important. And it only highlighted more. I'm sorry, I'm rolling here. I'm sorry.
Oh, go.
When
Keep rolling, baby.
Talking about bad decisions, you look at it, just highlights the fact that you went for it on 4th and 4 in the first quarter. I don't care if it's the first quarter or what have you. When you look at the way that there's the mentality of sometimes you just want to say, you know what, they're a road team. We're getting up early. We just want to say the message like, you know what?
Yeah, I'm with you on the 4th and 4. Kick the field goal early in the game. I'm with you there.
This decision making, this pass rush, the questionable calls, it's just missed tackles. It's just all culminated. That 2 minute just brought me sent me back to 2023 all over again. It was just, it was like that.
What is going on? What I hear you with, and we'll talk about the decision making with the coaches, but since before you came on, you probably heard us talking a little bit about Jalen Carter. What the hell's going on with Jalen Carter? I get all the talk about Bryce Hupp, but Jalen Carter's supposed to be the guy. He's supposed to be the superstar. Chris Lindstrom kind of handled him by himself for the most part. Pretty good player, but he didn't start the game, Chris. What was that about? What's going on with Jalen Carter?
I just think he's over pursuing. He's getting a little too anxious, I think. There have been times where he's blown through a couple of gaps and he's going past the bypass and they run right behind him. I've seen that a little bit. I think it's also a byproduct of not getting enough production out of your edge rusher. Because we saw when Hassan Reddick was here, they would put one guy on one side, they would put Reddick on the left side, Carter on the right side, and teams could just go, you know what? We can't shift our line either way because you got to worry about both of them. Now, since you don't have a competent pass rush, especially on the hub side, teams just go, all right, we know there's only really one true threat, especially in the middle right now, and that's Jalen Carter. Shift the line that way. We're not going to let him beat him, and anybody else can do it. It's his problems we're pursuing. Yeah, that's correctable. I'm worried about more of his pass rush because when you look out what's available out there, unless you can swing a tree, it's going to get a lot worse. We might see a lot of blitzing, which against veteran quarterbacks now,
you have blitzing. I guarantee you that. He ain't, especially with guys who can't blitz. But he was very honest with us. Remember, I don't know if you were there that day, but he said, "You blitz basically when you want to. If you blitz when you don't want to, you're basically in trouble."
Yeah, they're in trouble.
And they're in trouble right now. All right. I'm going to defend Kellen Moore a little bit, or Nick Sirianni, whomever. A.J. Brown's not out there. Saquon Barkley's having a great day. He's your best player. You got a chance to go win the game. They dialed up the perfect play to win the game. All he's got to do is make the catch, a simple catch for Saquon Barkley. He's been making plays all night, and he doesn't make the catch. At what point did we blame the players? And to Saquon's credit, he took accountability. I dropped the ball. I can't do it. Got to get, all the Andy Reid-isms, got to get better, all that kind of stuff. Let my team down. He said I shouldn't have put him in that position. I need to make that catch. I need to relax, go back to my old habits, and go to work. If he can admit it, why can't other people admit it? Simple play, Chris. You played the game. Players got to make plays. He was in a position to put the game away, didn't put the game away. Why can't it be as simple as that?
Players can make plays, but also you can have coaches can make calls that are going like, okay, what have you. And sometimes, and there's times where players can bail out coaches from players bail out coaches from bad calls. And I think that was the case. Like if he caught that, I thought that was that would have been a case that, but he didn't. So I just compounded the whole situation of doing that. Even if Saquon was even if he made that catch, okay, yeah, first down, we're not talking about this. Still question, like, all right, and then we got this. Look at the. I almost said something. I'm going to say it that way. Look at the gravitas on this team here to throw it in that situation and let your guys.
Everybody would have been so excited.
Yeah,
and the aggression. They love the aggression when it works. I thought it was a good decision, but good decisions, as you know, don't guarantee good outcomes because you don't execute. And by the way, after that, Chris, there's no rule against the defense picking up Saquon Barkley. There's no rule even after the defense falters. There's no rule for Jalen Hurts to press the urgency button a little bit too early. He had plenty of time to try to get Jake Elliott into some kind of field goal position to take that shot down the field. So there's a lot of people to blame. And most of them aren't the coaches. Not to say there aren't that 4th and 4 in the first quarter. I'm with you 100%. That's dumb. That's kind of hubris. That's, just take the early lead, get going, as you mentioned. Road team that struggled in week 1. So I think there's plenty of reasons to, nitpick the coaching staff. But the end of the game, to me, is not one of them. Other than maybe people have caught up to the Vic Fangio scheme. I don't know what they were trying to accomplish in pass coverage late in that game. Do you?
I don't know. I know the use of the even fronts a lot. I thought, especially in that situation, you need to make a play. You saw all game that you weren't getting sustained pressure from your 4 unless. Who would have thought? Unless you would have said Thomas Booker was on the field. Now, if you had asked me that before the season, I'm like,
well, he's the only one making plays. Yeah, 9 snaps.
He led the damn defensive line in tackles, Chris, on 9 snaps.
Yeah. You're thinking like, okay, if he's on the field, like, all right, maybe you have a shot. You're at that point where Moro Jolo had a good week last week, and now Thomas Booker, and you just wait for your big guns to really start to get into it consistently. So you know you're going to have you have issue with the pass rush, and then we know they're going to zone. You give a quarterback like Kirk Cousins time to process everything and look downfield, like, and he sees every coverage there is. So he goes, okay, I know I have this route here. I'm just going to pick you apart and methodically, surgically did that. That's what happens when we don't have a pass rush from the edge. And that's what happened. It continued to happen again on this one, too. So I look at when you mentioned the whole Fangio, everybody's catching up to it. I think everybody has. And the one thing I think when you look at that scheme was, if you had Fangio, at least he'd be the guy that can make enough tweaks. But I think when you look at all the teams trying to use it other places, they're just basically almost like copy paste. I'll try to change this one little thing, and hey, I made a tweak to the scheme. This is my scheme. You got the guy who originated it.
Yeah.
Teams have started to pick it apart more and more now. And it only works if you have 4 that can make pressure, and you got the back end that can go back end. The secondary, pass coverage wise, barring that Slade touchdown, which I know that is a big thing there. I thought they played pretty well in coverage.
Yeah, they were okay. I agree.
Run support, that's a whole other issue. That's
the run support's bad. But no, just late in the game, the final drive, Chris. Why are they, the 65 seconds they scored, they had no timeouts. So
6 plays, 75 yards, 65 seconds, and 0 timeouts.
To me, you got to funnel everything inside, and they're playing they're not even making them take some time. Even if you give up a 20-yard dig or something in the middle of the field, at least the clock is ticking. But they're letting guys get it. It doesn't make sense.
And I don't know what it is about Atlanta Falcons, whatever, but they seem allergic to Kyle Pitts. So if you don't have to really worry about him toward the middle of the field at that part, so you don't have to. So you really look at Drake London, Ray McLeod, Bijan going like leaking out doing a swing pass. Other than that, force everything inside. But they didn't do that,
and ironically, on the touchdown to win the game, Slay was playing Drake London where he should have. But what I would have done, he was guarded against the post. It was an option route, and Drake saw it and, turned it into a corner, and Slay guessed wrong. And he was trying to, if I see 6'4", 215, I'm thinking post too. I'm thinking he's going to use that big body, whether it's power forward, blocking him out. But he went the other way. So sometimes you got to tip your hat to the other team. I thought that was a nice adjustment from Drake London and Kirk Cousins. I did. You got to give the other team credit at some point.
You give credit on that play, but it should never even came down to a goal line that deep with only. Your defense got bend down in that way. Yeah. No team with aspirations are going to the thing. It felt, of all times, how many times do we make fun of the Atlanta Falcons for 28-3? Or just like making a late drive, something like that for it. All of a sudden, like the roles flipped, like where the Eagles became the Falcons back then, and playing the Patriots. Like, oh, okay, I feel good. I feel good about it. Like, there are so many. This is one of those moments. I know it's a good way to call it overreaction Monday, because it's week 2, and it's still a lot of football to go. But to be among those teams, those elite teams that we mentioned early on, if you want to have a shot, you better get this corrected as fast as you can, because if not, we've seen how all of a sudden the NFC looks like it's deeper than we all expected it to be. And
starting this week, maybe New Orleans is better than San Francisco or Detroit
and Tampa Dallas. Coming up right after that, who's looking pretty dang good right now too.
Yeah,
especially the Saints game. Saints really something about. I think I feel better about the Buccaneer game. That Saints in that dome without AJ Brown, with that defense the way it's playing right now, faces another Shanahan scheme. I think it's sitting too well right now.
This offense, by the way, go ahead, Zander.
Chris, I want to ask about Jalen Hurts. I was hard on him in the first hour. Some agree, some disagree. I thought that decision at the end of the game, I thought he played a decent game. I thought that decision was egregious. Just like I think you could have iced the game if Saquon makes the catch. I think he had a chance there to get out of there with the win, get in Jake Elliott field goal range, and take the game. They're 15 yards away from range. There's 25 seconds on the clock. It's 1st and 10, and you have a timeout. He forces the ball 25, 30 yards down the field, and Jesse Bates intercepts it. I thought it was an egregious decision by the quarterback there at the end of the game. Am I being too hard on Jalen Hurts?
I think it's one of those things where he's looking to try, like we hear sometimes, a lot of times when you go down the field, you're trying to get it to your best players in the field, where your best players on the field, you try to go to Devontae Smith. And I think that was a situation where you think he forced that into there, and that you didn't have to do it then. One of those things like it's almost like from up top, you can start to see like Bates knew. It's almost like teams are starting to see like, okay, in this situation, he's going to force it to either AJ Brown or Devontae Smith, which I don't do, but certain situations not. So I think that was a play that you probably shouldn't have thrown. You probably shouldn't have thrown that ball in that situation.
Yeah.
I think the bigger thing I'm worried about is we saw him make an appearance in the fourth quarter, but before then we didn't see him all the way to the first quarter. Why wasn't Dallas Goedert running down the middle of the field or something like that, or trying to scheme him up too? Because he just disappeared in this offense all of a sudden. You don't know what's going on there. I think he could have been vital, especially if your safeties are playing that well and that deep and playing that well on the outside. Dallas Goedert's a good weapon to use. We know his ability to run after the catch. So why not even take the safe route? Just keep on going like 10, 15 yards. We know how much the team can run, practices the spike downs and everything else. Find him in the middle of the field for about 10, 15 yards. You can get that. We know Jake, and also Jake Elliott's leg. Now I know, like going in that direction. I know it's supposed to force the river and all that stuff, and it can be tough at times. But you're going that way. You see them kick. I'd probably say 55 yards. I think they would have been able to get a field goal if they continued to like manipulate the middle of the field there. There's just so many. That was another thing I think they could have done to get them in a better spot to win that game, especially in that position they were put in.
Yeah. Offensively, boy, this team is different when AJ's not on the field. You mentioned him, and he's not going to be back. At least that's what he supposedly told Troy Aikman for a couple weeks at least. It's like pulling teeth when he's not out there, Chris. I mean, he's a great player. People should realize that. I think he's the best pure football player on the Eagles. I say it all the time. They got to do a better job persevering without AJ Brown. How does that look? Is it Dallas Goedert? You just kind of mentioned. Jahan Dotson, non-existent. Paris Campbell. Why did you cut Patrick Johnson to get Paris Campbell up with that roster manipulation? That's going to be another Christian Ellis thing. Watch. Somebody's going to pick up Patrick Johnson. Probably 5 teams are going to claim him on waivers. Why? Because you needed Paris Campbell so bad to, I don't know, stand in as a scarecrow on potential offensive plays. Why can't this team persevere better when AJ Brown's not on the field?
I don't know. Honestly, I know he's one of the, to me, he's the top 3 receiver in this league. So I don't know why they can't find a way to do better on this one. But this is where you start looking at person out, like the fact that you had Britton Covey. This is not a knock against these guys, but that Britton Covey and Grant Calcaterra looked a lot better than the guys that you got, like who got the ball, or especially early on, than the 2 guys you said the offense run through, and Devontae Smith and Dallas Goedert. That says a lot. And that says a lot. You got to do a lot better in trying to find more ways of getting these guys the ball. I don't mean doing screen passes. There are ways you can get guys open. Maybe out formation them. Maybe you put Devontae Smith in the background, trying to get him that pre-release out there as well. So maybe you use the things. Maybe you use 2 backs more to try to throw some things off. But the way you can't do it, especially against good defense, getting ahead to next week, but I think you see something similar with the Falcon defense. Teams that very good horizontally get that speed there. You're going to need to find a way to push them vertically, because they're going to take advantage. They're going to say, oh, you know what? AJ Brown's not on here, and you're just going to do a little 10, 15, 15 yards as your max thing, trying to attack it down the field. Oh, bring everybody up. We just stop Saquon Barkley and kill at the same time. So they need to find a way to get these guys more creative. Tell Moore, I know it's only week 3, but this is going to be very important for Kellen Moore to establish himself. They say, you know what? I know what I'm doing here as the offensive coordinator. I can really get these guys going.
There are so many things to complain about in this game that are obvious, but one that's not as obvious that drives me insane, because we're 4 years in, Chris, and I asked Nick about it after the game. What the hell with these illegal man downfield penalties? Why do they struggle with it and other teams don't?
Timing. It's whole time.
Is part of it on Jalen, like where they don't know what he's going to do with the ball?
Well, that nobody can know.
Right.
The offensive line. But
I think
I
the offensive
yesterday I
line
think
was
was
best.
Cam, because Cam was like a bat out of hell on both of his illegal man downfields. Maybe it's just he's new, obviously, at
It's
playing the
interesting.
center position, because he's just bolting out like it's like it's a traditional running play, and all of a sudden they're RPOing it to Cubby, and poor Cubby's getting 9-10 yards, and they're getting called back, and everybody's saying, "Oh, he's averaging 3 yards a catch." Not if they stop going downfield.
Yeah, a lot of times it's all teaching, all timing. And for the Eagles' sake, I remember I think it was 2021 when they had the issues when they were trying, they kept hitting all these legal bands outfield. What do it? Well, they moved away from it for a little bit, worked on it behind the scenes and thing, and then brought it back out.
Yeah.
I know you want your guys to be aggressive, trying to get downfield to get blocks. That's just a way where you just gotta go, you know what, just hold your water just for a little bit, because you're not, as a center, you're way further away from that play. And I know they're taught most of the time it's just treat it like it's a run play. Off the line, just run downfield, treat it like a run play. That ball's supposed to be out. Well,
Yeah.
quick decision is supposed to be out. He's training more like he's really trying to get out there, like faster than the other guys. Like slow down just a half second, they'll be
It's
fine.
too
But
quick, man. He's
it's
out there
yeah.
3-4 yards, and they were all good calls to Nick's credit. He was like that. Yeah, the reps got him right, and they did. But it's a problem because you use the right term. It's teaching, right? And the same thing with rub routes over the years. Like the Eagles are the worst rub route team in the NFL. I'm convinced. And that's all teaching. And then I start to look at the coaching staff, because that's your job to teach these guys not to make it obvious that they're picking. And too often the Eagles have gotten into issues with that and the illegal man downfields. It's 4 years now. The teaching's got to be better, in my opinion.
I think the rub routes have gotten better, because I think when you look at 2021, like almost like a basketball, somebody was trying to literally set a pick behind somebody.
Yeah.
And I was like, what's going on? They've gotten better. I mean, when we look at last week, there was a rub route concept, mesh concept, where they didn't necessarily get out, but somebody kind of threw their backside a little bit more, and it was like, hey, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, I'm not touching you, and they had to go around the long way, and it worked out. Now you see it this way too. It's basically where you're back at the same thing with this RPO concept, which is a good tool when it's effectively, because Jalen gets in the rhythm, he seems so real comfortable with it. You need your offensive line, it's part of it's on the offensive line, part of it's also on the back end with Jalen and everything else, making it quick too. Not a lot, but Cam just needs to slow down a half second. That's all it is. And that's still, he just needs to rep it more in practice and make sure he does it in games. You can do it in practice all the time, but if you do it in games, stuff like that, then that's when you start to concern and consistently can do over and over and over.
Chris, talk me off the ledge, man. Week 2, overreaction. I'm concerned about this team. I'm concerned about the pass rush. I'm concerned about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis. I'm concerned about Darius Slay. I'm concerned about Jalen Hurts. I'm concerned about everything, Chris, coming out of week 2. Talk me off the ledge. Am I overreacting? Will this team settle in and kind of find their rhythm?
The only thing I'll say about an overreaction, and I'm not even believing this one myself on top of it when it comes to the pass rush, like especially when certain number 0 price off. When you look at the big free agent signings when they first got to the team, Javon Curse, we all know how that ended too, but Javon Curse, first 2 weeks, he didn't have a sack. Hassan Reddick, when he first joined the Eagles, first 2 weeks, he didn't have a sack, and then we know what he did later on. I don't see anything about that. I'm seeing Bryce Huff's going to come out of that, but there's that. That's the only reason I think if we were talking about like Zander, come back. There's more to life going on for it. I'll use that stat to you. I don't believe it right now, but I see that too. I look at that one. You're really starting to look at this team where this is going to have to be. We don't have AJ Brown. It's completely different and scares you, but it looks like it's going to have to be a team that's going to have to play in a lot of shootouts this year, and you're going to need your offense to win you the games, because if not, they're going to jump out on teams early, which is why you kind of should take that field goal. But you need to jump out on teams early, so that way you can try to at least get some semblance of a chance to try to get past with a fixer or whatever. So I got nothing.
Yeah.
Well,
nothing. And there's an argument. I think the play call worked. So ultimately, you're trying to win the game. You're competitive. I do think there's this mentality, and make sure you follow Chris at C Franklin News. I know you got to run, buddy. So I'll nj.com or read Chris there. The idea of just running the football twice on 4th down, even if you don't get it, and Atlanta's backed up, I see a lot of people jumping on that bandwagon. And I get it. You probably win the game, just like you should have won the game. But I don't know. Why does everybody turn into Mr. Conservative? I don't think that serves you long term. Like, I think if you go let the players win the game, it serves you better than, oh, let's stick my head into the line twice and bleed the clock. It probably accomplishes that, but am I wording this correctly? You get my sentiment? Trust the players, let them go win the game. Don't be conservative, especially when you think you're a really good team.
I think against a team like the Falcons, who you would arguably say, even with Judon and Grady Jarrett, you have a better offensive line. You need to assert that will against them and say, you know what, I trust you guys up front. I think and I look at the way that Barkley was running. I look at the way that this team was using the rushing attack. Even if you ran a naked bootleg with Hurts, get everybody flowing. You know everybody's going to be anxious. You know everybody's going to try to float the ball. Come out with something different. But I just don't think in that. I still think with this run game, with the running back that you paid all that money for, with those offensive linemen that you paid a lot of money on extension wise, on the edges, at the tackles, and the one guard, Landon Dickerson. Those guys should be able to, in that situation, even if you get with this line and that running back, if you can't get 3 yards in those situations on 2 chances, I think you have a bigger problem than what you have. And I think with the way to do it, they would have picked it up, kept it in the middle. Everybody's laughing. Ha ha ha. We take the knee and we see all this stuff. And Daquan finally gets his first win in the link. And we see all the things. Oh, look at this. Kelsey runs out on the field, blah, blah, blah. But you didn't do it. You didn't trust your line. And now you're sitting there going,
I was told by Howie, Chris, to be fair, I was told by Saquon was here to be a weapon. Weapon includes the passing game.
You had a nuclear deterrent and you didn't use it. And that's what happened. You did.
Nice. I like it. At C Franklin News.
At C Franklin News. Make sure you guys follow Chris. Does a great job for NJ.com. Chris, you failed to talk me off the ledge, but that's all right, brother. I don't know if anybody could today. Thanks for joining the show today, man. We'll talk to you again soon. All right, brother.
No problem. I'll tell tales of your compassion. Don't jump. There's more season left, man. But yeah, it ain't feeling too good right now.
And by the way, Brandon Graham's gonna have plenty of energy. I guarantee it.
Oh boy, I can't wait till abundance. I can see it right now. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. It'll be good.
All right, Chris, talk to you again soon. All right,
thanks, guys. You have a good one now.
Yep, there's Chris Franklin joining us on Birds 365. Great stuff from Chris Franklin. Thought he brought some good context. Disagreed with your point on the play call. Look, John, I'm struggling with that one because I see both sides. I see what you're saying. He makes that catch. Nobody's having this convo, but I do wonder with the risk reward analysis of it, where it's like the reward is you win the game, but the risk is you leave that much time on the clock. You don't, they have 0 timeouts. The clock was going against the team. I get from the perspective of if you're a coach, just make the decision that puts your team in the best chance and live with the results.
And here's
there was a bigger risk to the play they chose, and ultimately,
I think there's a lot. Look, 16th, and here's the biggest thing: 16th drop since the start of the 2021 season for Saquon Barkley, the most among any NFL running back. So I get the philosophy that you should just run it. And if it were me, I would probably just run it. But I'm not the one who blows smoke up your asses and thinks this is the greatest player in the history of mankind. And by the way, to he was playing very well in the game. And he had successfully navigated that exact same play and almost had a touchdown. Was ruled a touchdown, then overturned because his knee hit the ground, and that turned into the tush push touchdown. But 16th drop since 2021. So it's probably not going to be the only one you see this year. Maybe the Eagles learned something. Maybe that's a silver lining. Maybe they don't do it in that situation and they play it more conservatively. But when it develops the way it did, All I'm saying is I'm blaming the player. I'm not blaming the coach.
No, I understand your point of view as well. Let's get to a couple. We have a couple more super chats. Lauren Crampsey, who I haven't seen before on the supers. Lauren, thanks for checking in. Thank you for the super chat. She gave us 2, so I'll read them real quick. I'll get your reaction, Johnny Mac. She says the O-line penalties, the Brandon Graham face max on 1st and goal, giving Blue Chips Tony point shave vibes. The Sirianni grandstanding after open field tackles. It's all feeling sloppy. Who breathe? Lauren is down on this overreaction Tuesday as well. She followed
hubris. I like the
I knew you were going to like that, John.
Yeah.
She followed it up because also J Mac is Howie usually behind Nick on the SL in the 4th. I don't know what she means in the SL there, but do you know what that means? SL
sidelines.
Oh, sideline. Yeah.
No. Typically he's not. Why was he there?
Yeah, he was last night. Yep, he was standing right behind him.
What? How much time was left?
I think it was toward the end. I forget what.
Yeah, he does come down.
It was late.
Yeah, he does come down late when the game's about to be over. So that probably not a surprise. I thought it was something present throughout the game, which no, that would not be typical. But yeah, he generally comes down to the field late, and obviously heads to the locker room with the guys. So that part's not that rare. No.
Brian Pumper gives in a super chat. Brian, thank you, man. He says, silver lining. Besides the first quarter, that was the first time I've seen Jalen run the ball effectively since 2022. That last throw was borderline Carson. So Brian,
it was great in the run game, Jalen.
Yeah,
Jalen was great. And in a lot of ways, that would have been, if they win the game, he would have lifted them to that win because he didn't have a lot of help.
Solid game. I mean, clean game until that last play. Yeah. But I just think, look, I know I came down hard on Hurts with the decision, but when you lose AJ Brown, you have to be the one to elevate the team as the quarterback. And I thought that decision,
you can't elevate,
John. Just like you say, though, that if Saquon makes that catch, we win the game, and we're not talking about this. I think if Jalen Hurts makes 2 good decisions there at the end of the game instead of forcing the ball, we're probably talking about a 24-22 win because Jake Elliott drills a 55-yarder and we walk out of there with the win.
Yeah,
and we're
probably right.
We're talking about everything. But you make those decisions as the quarterback and you bring your team to victory. I thought that was an egregious decision by Jalen at the end.
I'm not going to go egregious because I used that term to describe Saquon's drop, but I do think it was a poor decision. I don't think it was hero ball decision. That's where I kind of differ. I thought he should have been more patient. I thought there was plenty of time. There was more opportunities to take shots to get at least Jake into a position to potentially win the game. And that's all you're trying to do at that standpoint. So I agree. It was a bad decision. Overall, though, I think he played pretty well.
Yeah, I do.
I think he was great in the running game, as the commenter mentioned. Really positive from the standpoint of extending drives. Didn't get a lot of help from John Dotson, Paris Campbell. I don't know how you elevate those guys. I think the Britton Covey stuff he trusted. I think it would have looked better than it looks in the box score today if they cleaned up the illegal downfield penalties, the Britton Covey stuff. So there was a lot of good in Jalen's performance. Ironically, I think he played better in this game than he did in week 1.
I agree. I definitely agree with that. Yeah.
But people are going to look at the final score and the number of points and 67-yard touchdowns to AJ Brown, and AJ's not out there. So it becomes more difficult and it's more of a slog, and it was for them, but he was doing well, and they should have won the game. They should have catch the ball. Nick hates that teaching. It's not a coaching term. He hates it. Like if somebody drops a pass and he says, if he ever hears his coaches say, catch the ball, he'll yell at them. And by that, he means you're trying to catch the ball. Saquon's trying to catch the ball. He didn't catch the ball. Telling him to catch the ball is not going to help him. Why did he drop the ball? Was his technique off? All that kind of stuff are the coaching points. But at the end of the day, we're not coaches, so we can say, catch the ball. And none of this is a discussion.
Good stuff from John McMullen there. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Appreciate all the super chats. Appreciate all the love this morning. Thank you, guys. Hit that like button if you're enjoying the show. Johnny Mac, just your final thoughts here, man, on this overreaction.
Yeah, that's what it was. Catch the ball. That's my final
brutal
thought.
loss there, John. I mean, how do you can't lose that game?
It's week 2. They'll bounce back. There's plenty of brutal loss. Every team goes through them.
You're not as concerned about the trends from last year as I am, it doesn't seem. I think there's some stuff that this team struggles.
No, individually, I'm concerned about Jalen Carter. I'm concerned about what's going on there. I'm concerned about the defensive scheme, which I've been concerned about for 4 years, basically, because I think it's a little bit too easy to deal with. I'm concerned about not finding enough complementary players to the point you're overpaying for Jahan Dotson, and then he can't perform when you need him. Same old at third receiver. There's a lot of things I'm concerned about. But this league is so many of it. It's built on parity. So many are one-score games. And when you're playing a one-score game, it's like if you close out the game, nobody cares because you close it out and you win the game. But that one thing going the wrong way in a one-score game, it might be a tip ball. It might be
a Saquon Barkley drop.
In this case, it was a Saquon Barkley drop. It could be a host of things. The ball bounces the wrong way on a punt return. It hits somebody in the shoulder or something. It could be a host of things that go and bang. That's the difference between winning and losing. And you saw it with the drop pass. They should have won the game. They didn't win the game. It's not the first time. It won't be the last time. There'll probably be a game at some point this year they should lose, and something happens to the other team. It shouldn't be a surprise, all these one-score games. That's the margin of error is so small, and you just saw how small it was last night.
Yep, no doubt about it. Eagles lose that game down the stretch. James says early bye week. We'll see if that has a good impact and the team can. Oh, look, James, you're talking about the bye week. I'm talking about week 3. We got the Saints. We going to New Orleans for a 1:00 game, and then we got Tampa. We just got beat by the Falcons at home.
Yeah, the NFC South is going to wreck the season.
James, I got bigger worries right now than the damn early bye week, my man. I'm worried we're going to go into that bye week.
By the way, to give you more joy, Jeff Kerr, our buddy who did great early this morning.
Yeah, I love
thanks for getting back up. Eagles defense, yards per play allowed 31st in the NFL, yards per carry 31st, 20-plus yards, so explosive plays 30th, and that's what they're designed to stop, so they're not even stopping that. 10-plus yard rushes allowed 29th in the NFL, successful play rate 24th in the NFL.
And you're not concerned with Vic Fangio yet, Johnny Mac?
No, I said I don't like the scheme, but I like Vic. But I
personally, but I'm talking about the defense that he's putting on the field.
Yeah, well, I've said it for 4 years. I think people are catching up to the scheme.
Yeah, you have.
So,
I mean, shit, egregious is now the word of the day. Those are some egregious numbers for the 2024 Eagles defense put out by Jeff Kerr.
Yeah, but it would be helpful if Jalen Carter plays like Jalen Carter, and you can't make chicken salad out of you know what.
Yeah,
and if the players are playing poorly, they're playing poorly.
That's going to do it for today's edition of Birds 365, a little bit of overtime. Thanks, everybody, for getting up with us this morning. Johnny Mac, thanks for getting up. Short sleep. See if you can get a nap in there or something today, Johnny.
I'm napping, man. I don't nap.
I don't nap. I cannot nap. I've never.
Yeah, I don't know what it is. When I'm up, unfortunately, because I would like to take a nap. But
I can't nap. So I'm with you in that. We'll have a great day of shows. I'll have a bunch of content coming on the channel, some clips of last night, some clips from the show today. Jeff Kerr, me and him had a pretty good debate on Jalen Hurts today. Chris Franklin was in. He had a great appearance on the show. So we'll have all sorts of content on JAKIB Sports. Everybody stay tuned on the channel. Appreciate everybody's support. Hit that like button on your way out. Johnny Mac, great show today, man. We'll catch you tomorrow morning on Birds 365, right, brother?
Hey, thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everybody. Catch you tomorrow on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.